Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Alright guys, today I want to talk about the chapter that just released, Boruto chapter 75. A bunch of stuff happened in this chapter, let's be honest. We got the official announcement of the Otsutsuki God, we got Momoshiki and Boruto merging thoughts, we got Boruto's fate essentially being put out in the actual manga panel, and not only that, we got Amato's true plans. Not even Amato's true plans. We got Amato's true plan, we got how he met Jigen, we got why he started making clones, just a bunch of stuff. But the first thing that I definitely want to start with has to be the Otsutsuki God. His name is Shibai Otsutsuki. He's currently dead. Technically, he's not really dead. No one really knows if he's actually dead. It was kind of interesting seeing them like kind of go over this topic during the chapter, mainly because Amato kind of believes that he just left his body, like he just abandoned his body. They did kind of hypothesize that he just left this dimension. Momoshiki did actually mention him not necessarily being in this dimension. Amato did actually say it was possible that he just left his body because what he was doing didn't necessarily need an actual body, and the body was pretty much what was forcing Shibai to like kind of do a bunch of other stuff to kind of maintain his life. Now, what he did to maintain his life was the karma seal ritual. Specifically, Amato said by repeatedly going through the karmic resurrection, Shibai quote unquote cheated death. He devoured many fruits over several millennia, and eventually the cumulative evolution led to godhood. This right here is eerily similar to what Ishiki Otsutsuki was actually telling to Code back in the day, when he was essentially saying to upgrade yourself and eventually become the Otsutsuki God. He said the chakra fruit shall contain everything, a record of all life that ever lived and died on this planet, including me. Eat it and upgrade yourself. Do that and you yourself will become a new Otsutsuki. Then go forth and devour a planet after a planet across space. Keep evolving until you become a peerless, unique existence, a god. So this right here is essentially exactly what Ishiki Otsutsuki is saying, and it turns out that we actually do have a blueprint to potentially follow with this Shibai guy. Now, it wasn't only that, Shibai also did have the divine arts. This is going to be something completely new to the Boruto series, and I believe that this right here could possibly reshape the entire landscape of the Boruto series for a couple of reasons. Supposedly now the divine arts are just abilities that you can actually do without using hand signs. Supposedly something completely different from ninjutsu and something completely different from sage mode. I personally believe it's going to be something even more than that, mainly because I don't necessarily foresee there being any super weak shinjutsus unless they have like some insane side effects. Like as of right now, the shinjutsus that we do know available is essentially Kawaki or Ishiki Otsutsuki's abilities to actually shrink things down, essentially Sukuna Hikon, and actually bring things from a different dimension, Daikokaten. Not only that, Code's claw marks are also shinjutsu. Ada's Senringan ability is also shinjutsu, and not only that, Damon's abilities are also a shinjutsu. There are still some outstanding questions that I definitely do have about Shibai. A couple of things. First things first, where in the world is his body? And not only that, how did Amato get his DNA? I believe they didn't necessarily ask Amato that for a reason, not necessarily Shikamaru Naruto, but specifically the Boruto writers. I think that this stuff right here is probably going to be told to us a little bit later on in potentially a lot more entertaining fashion. Now, I definitely do believe that eventually we're probably going to get to see Shibai in the series. However, I don't necessarily see Shibai actually fighting against anybody. I think that Shibai is going to be way too strong of a character, and even past that, as of right now, he doesn't really have a body, so he can't necessarily spar and fight with anybody. I said this multiple times, I view Shibai as like a Hagoromo type of figure, whereas Hagoromo wasn't necessarily in Naruto or Naruto Shippuden boxing with anybody, but its impact was still felt. And it might be a certain situation like this with Shibai Otsutsuki, especially with the advent of now the divine arts, and we should be expecting Boruto to also possibly get some shinjutsu. It does make sense for Boruto to eventually start to dabble in some divine arts, and of course Shibai is probably going to be present during those times. I'm not saying that he's going to be in the anime or be in the series, but we're probably going to get to see a little bit more information about him, just like when a lot of the characters start to actually obtain 6-pass senjutsu or 6-pass sage mode. We start to get a lot more information about Hagoromo. We start to see a lot more of Hagoromo in an actual series. Now, not only that, Boruto and Momoshiki in this chapter, the biggest difference that we did actually get to see is the fact that their thoughts start to cross over. Whereas Momoshiki was kind of unintentionally sharing his thoughts with Boruto, and Boruto was kind of unintentionally sharing his thoughts with Momoshiki. And this right here is going to essentially change the landscape of the series. One of the reasons specifically why I had this chapter rated so high is that so much of the information in this chapter is series altering, and this right here is one of those things. Boruto now being able to communicate with Momoshiki so freely completely elevates the possibility of Boruto and Momoshiki eventually becoming friends. I know this right here is not necessarily a popular idea amongst the Boruto community, but it just makes so much sense at this particular point. I do have to point out though, Momoshiki's overall plan to take over Boruto's body as of right now, it's still a very, very big hindrance on, of course, their relationship, mainly because Boruto understands that Momoshiki is still trying to take over his body. But we've seen Momoshiki's plans fail before. Momoshiki's plans are not foolproof. If there is ever a situation where Boruto isn't necessarily like completely giving up on himself, essentially what Momoshiki predicted, post time skip, I definitely will not rule out a Boruto Momoshiki relationship or a Boruto Momoshiki friendship. If you guys aren't necessarily completely familiar with what Momoshiki essentially had in mind for Boruto, he essentially said that Boruto was going to lose everything and Boruto was going to eventually want to give up and then go into a corner where then Momoshiki can actually take over his body. Again, if that does not happen, it's going to be very difficult for Momoshiki and Boruto to remain enemies, mortal enemies, for about what, 40 or 50 more years with Boruto's elite level talk no jutsu. I just don't see it happening. I see Boruto and Momoshiki becoming friends relatively quickly. But a couple of things that they were talking about this chapter, absolutely entertaining. First things first, we've seen the actual fate image from Momoshiki. Now, again, we aren't completely sure if this right here is going to be Boruto's fate. Momoshiki has essentially been telling Boruto for years now that eventually Boruto was going to lose everything. And in these panels, we see a scene where it's like completely chaos. It doesn't actually seem like it's going to be a far time from right now, just because of the sheer fact that they all seem the same. Boruto has on the same clothes, Shikamaru has on the same clothes, Shikida has on the same clothes, Sarada has on the same clothes, Boruto has on the same headband, a bunch of things like that. And also during that particular scene, I mean, it looks like they're turning against Kawaki or Kawaki is turning against them. Shikida said that just ain't what a friend does. Now, just off of that, you don't necessarily know exactly who Shikida is talking about, but we do see Boruto's Byakugan completely blaring, and we do understand that when Momoshiki actually does take over, we do see a Byakugan, so it's possible that he's talking about Boruto, but it's also possible that he's talking about Kawaki, especially looking at the next panel. We essentially see Mitsuki talking, and he said, "You managed to truly anger me," and then directly after that, the next image, we see Kawaki with his Karma Seal, stage 2, horn out and everything, completely blaring, and it seems that he's looking back at Mitsuki. Now again, we don't fully know exactly what's going on in this particular situation, but Mitsuki essentially saying that you truly managed to anger me. It seems that that right there is directed to Kawaki, mainly because we understand that Mitsuki is almost never mad at Boruto. We understand that Mitsuki is essentially always defending Boruto, and the only time that Mitsuki actually wants to use the Sage Mode is when Boruto is in trouble. Boruto or Sarada, of course, and the rest of Team 7. But this right here leads me to believe that the rest of Team 7 and Team 10 are aiming their vitriol to Kawaki. But again, you never know, because Boruto does have his Byakugan open. And again, this right here also leads the question, could Boruto potentially get a scar in this particular scene? Boruto's right eye is actually having the Byakugan, and also he has the headband, which he has a scar in the time skip. And also we see Kawaki's arm completely mutated, so it's possible that he himself swiped Boruto's eye. This scene right here was absolutely insane. It happened directly at the end of the chapter, which is essentially a cliffhanger, and I expect to see a lot more information about this in the next chapter, chapter 76. We also got some decent intel about Amado. I did want to make it like a full video about this specifically, mainly because I believe that a lot of people do have an opinion about Amado that could possibly still be true, but from this chapter, it doesn't necessarily seem like Amado is this like completely sinister, nefarious type of guy. Amado has essentially been wanting to revive his daughter for a very long time. Amado understood that his daughter was eventually going to die, mainly because she had an incurable disease. Now, with that incurable disease, Amado himself, being a scientist, understood that his expertise was not in the realm of finding cures. His expertise was actually in the realm of making clones. So he tried to build a separate body for his daughter because he understood that his daughter's current body was defective. So at that very moment, Amado started to make clones. He kind of did it successfully, which of course we see Delta, but Amado said that the personalities didn't necessarily match completely. He understood that the daughter that he once knew and loved was completely gone, and once he came to that realization, he met Jigen, and Jigen essentially told Amado that he could eventually bring his daughter back to him. And once Amado heard that, Amado was then inside of the Kata organization. Right now, it seems that Amado is still trying to hold on to that dream. He wants to essentially have Kawaki implant a clone with his Karma Seal because he kind of put a bit of his daughter's DNA into that Karma Seal as well. This right here is extremely complicated. It's a whole thing. And it's crazy, mainly because this right here being one of the main plot details, it's one of the least entertaining storylines through this chapter because this chapter was such a great chapter. But for fear of me making this video way too long, I'm probably going to have to pair this with some extra videos. But let me know what you guys think about this chapter right here in the comment section down below. But it's been your boy, Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.